The South African Depression and Anxiety Group will today release its new call centre statistics on suicide prevention. SADAG manages a 15-line counselling and referral call centre for all provinces in South Africa. According to its statistics, around 21.4% of teenagers in the country have considered committing suicide. For more on this, I'm joined by Casey Chambers from the South African Depression and Anxiety Group. Good to have you with us, Casey.
Morning.
That's a shocking statistic, isn't it? Frightening to hear our children are that depressed.
It is, and I think a lot of people think it doesn't happen to their children, but when we look at the fact that the youngest suicide in South Africa has been 6 years old.
Oh.
So this doesn't just happen to teenagers, this happens to children. More recently in the press, we've been seeing the matric student in Pretoria that ended his life, as well as the 13-year-old a couple of months ago. There's so many of these cases that we're hearing around the country of children, teenagers, adults, the elderly. So many people are dealing with depression and so many problems that they feel like suicide is the only option to end their problems.
It's quite extraordinary that that 6-year-old child would understand what you have to do as well to get to that end point. I mean, that says a lot about...
It's incredibly sad. And for that particular case, it wasn't his first attempt. It was his second attempt. And I think, we think that everything will get better if we, just give him some love and support. And unfortunately, he actually did it at school, during school hours, where there's lots of people and teachers. So I think a child, even a teenager, might not come out and say, I want to kill myself or I want to commit suicide. But they might want to say things like, I just want to go to sleep and never wake up. So it's being aware as parents, teachers, grandparents on those key warning signs and acting and taking every suicide threat or mention seriously.
I was going to ask you, I mean, as a parent or somebody, with a friend who you feel might be depressed, I mean, what are the telltale signs other than the language? Is there behavioural change as well?
There is. So in more than 75% of suicides, they tell someone first or give off the warning signs. So you are able to pick up some of the symptoms or the signs beforehand, including talking about suicide, talking about death, saying things like, I wish I wasn't here anymore. And this could also be expressed on social media. Everyone can go to social media, and instead of liking or putting a sad emoji face to a comment, you can actually reach out to them. Also, a change in appearance, a change in behavior, withdrawing, isolating, having absolutely no energy, feeling tired all the time. There's these kinds of key symptoms that you can pick up as a loved one or even a colleague and actually ask directly. I think we as society are too scared to talk about this thing called suicide. But by saying, I'm really worried about you, is everything okay? Do you have thoughts of hurting yourself? And that could be the entry level to start a conversation where you really get to understand what is going on in someone's head. And
that's just the start, isn't it? So, I mean, tell us how your sort of the call centres work, or the lines you have of that are open to people. Because I've spoken to several people who've tried to take their lives, and it's something that always stays with you, doesn't it? I mean, how do you remove it from their psyche, and what can somebody do if they feel the desire?
So what we've been noticing, and even just tracking the number of calls that we've been receiving this year alone, every month we're getting more and more calls, more and more suicide calls. In general, our call centre has received over 145,000 calls from people around the country who are in desperate need of help. Of those calls, over 41,000 have been suicide, needing suicide intervention or crisis intervention. Those are very alarming stats. So what we do is we provide crisis intervention over the phone. We help people get the help that they're needing. And being there, often people feel incredibly helpless and hopeless, like there is no hope. They don't know where to go or who to speak to. They're too afraid to speak to someone because of the stigma or the shame. So often what we do is we case manage and help that person if they need to get to a mental health professional or a hospital or get a family member there. In some cases where someone has already started trying to take their life or has the means, they've overdosed or taken tablets, we get emergency help to them as soon as possible. We run the country's only suicide crisis line, so we're getting calls on a daily basis from people who have really hit rock bottom and don't know what else to do.
If somebody wants to get in touch with you?
So we have a toll-free helpline. It's 0800 567 567. We also have lots of information, whether it be in the workplace, colleagues, loved ones, on our website at www.sadag.org.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.